Hey guys, Deathbyphiw here. Welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a little bit different than most. This is going to be the first time I'm doing a video like this, but I'm going to be talking about what heroes from S tier down to F tier are the easiest to play. Not skill ceiling, skill cap, but just flat out the easiest heroes to play, especially for new players coming into Overwatch. So stick around. So before I start, I'm going to say if you just want to see the skill level tier list, skip to the end to see where I placed everyone. If you want to stick around and understand why I think that the skill level is where it's at for each hero, watch the video. We're going to start with supports, move to tanks, and then finish it up with DPS. So starting off the bat, we're going to do with supports, and I'm going to say the easiest hero at bar none, F tier, skill level is super low, is Moira. There's not too much to her kit, not much to say. Like I said, is just really managing her cooldowns, fading and using coalescence aggressively when needed. There's not too much to it. Another hero that I think on the bottom of the list is D tier is Mercy. Once again, her gameplay is not all too exciting. She's one of my most played heroes, so don't kill me, Mercy mains, but there's not too much to her kit as far as skill level goes. With her movement, her ultimate, and her abilities, it's just not too crazy. Like blue beam a DPS, and I get it, she's not too good right now, but it's about skill level, right? Not about where they're at in the meta. It's skill level to play them. Next up, I'm going to say is no, not Lifeweaver. I'm gonna put Brig, and I'm gonna put Brig in C tier. It's more or less staying with your team. You're like a mini Reinhardt in a way, but with, I don't know, you're better than Rein. So it's not too crazy in how to play her, but it's also not the hardest as far as, not too easy or hard. It's kind of in the middle of the pack as far as her skill level goes. Her ultimate's super strong and easy to use, but it's knowing when to use your ultimate, when to be aggressive, when to back off, and trying to hit some of your shots with like your flail, shooting it out to try and proc your passive to heal your team. So that's basically it, like really position heavy. Another hero that I think is probably C tier, I'm gonna put Lifeweaver at C tier as far as skill level goes. Managing his cooldowns, when to use his pedal, when to use his grip, when to use his ultimate. I mean, that's where he gets his value, and you're just constantly pumping out heals. So the skill level as far as playing him, there's not much aiming involved. You're not going to be doing much damage, kind of one-dimensional heal, and try to stay alive. Another hero, I'm going to move up the list and go to B tier. I'm going to say Illari. Pylon placement is very important. Her ability to aim is very important. Your ability to manage your healing with your secondary fire and get in enough range within 15 meters while also being able to do damage and doing that dual healing damage kind of concept, that's what brings her skill level up a bit higher. It's not hard to do everything that she has, but you have to really work on positioning, work on aiming, and also balance damage and healing at the same time, and you have to aim for both of those. Well, aim a little bit, right, on her secondary fire. Her pylon kind of self-heals, but that pylon placement is very important. I'm going to say Zen, and I'm going to put Zen above Illari as far as supports go. Zen is a glass cannon with very little, like no mobility and very little survivability. You have to Discord orb the appropriate targets at the right time. Otherwise, you waste that ability and you can't Discord orb that hero anymore, especially like the tank. And then you got to really get good at aiming with him and know your positioning. Like your positioning is so important on Zen that if you have bad positioning, you will just be deleted really quickly. So that's what brings his skill ceiling a little bit higher, and his healing's not all too high, so you're really focusing on utility for your team and staying alive and dealing damage. Moving on up to A tier, I'm going to say Kiriko, and you may argue with me in the comments, say, oh, Kiriko's broken. Yeah, she's broken. Oh, well, Kiriko's really good. Yeah, she is. But just because you pick Curie doesn't mean you're going to win the game. She's a very high picked hero at the moment. And you have to, like, you get a lot of value out of her just not even being good with her, right? But to be good with her, that's what I'm saying. That's skill level, to be really good, know when to be aggressive, know when to back up, know when to use your abilities, your cleanse, your teleport, your ultimate. That's what brings her up to the upper echelon into A tier. That skill level, that's that skill level is a bit higher than the others to be really good with her, because if you are really good with her, yeah, it's easy mode. Game's on easy mode, 100%. She's super broken, super strong. And I'm gonna put Ana into S tier. And if you argue with me and think otherwise, Ana is like super freaking hard to be good at. She is the definition of what a support should be, in my personal opinion. And she requires, not only does she have little survivability and like no mobility to stay alive, she also has to do damage and also do healing and also manage her nade. Should I anti the team or should I heal my team with the nade? Like when to use that. Also, her sleep dart is a skill shot that you have to hit. That's your only survivability. You're hitting that skill shot, right? And then it's just positioning is like the #1 key thing with Ana, even above Zen. Her positioning is so important. It's so paramount, and she brings it up to S tier. Now, moving on to tanks, and we're going to start off with F tier. As far as tanks, how super easy to play. Orisa, another one. Point and click. Hold down your primary fire, aim at a hero, manage your cooldowns of fortify, your javelin spin, and your javelin throw, and just pop your ultimate whenever you feel fit. Like, get somebody low, run into them, javelin, fortify. Oh, like, okay, I killed somebody. And she's not as strong now because she got nerfed, but her skill level is really low to be good with her. I would say the same with Maga, but I'll put him above Moira and Orisa. It's kind of similar concept to Orisa. It's kind of like point and click. Manage your cooldowns a little bit, and it's nothing all too crazy or complex to his kit like Orisa. It's just like super simple, nothing too crazy, and then pop my ult to capture someone and try to kill them and delete them. And he's also really good in the meta right now as well. So skill level really low. Moving on to D tier. Hog is D tier as far as skill level goes. I'll put him above Mercy. He doesn't have his one shot right now anymore, but it's more like, okay, I'm gonna throw my trap on the floor and try to hook a target. So it's like aiming. Hook a target, put it in the trap, shoot him, kill them. Hook, trap, hook, shoot, trap, hook, shoot, trap, hook, shoot, on repeat over and over and over again. Oh, I'm taking damage. Take a breather, heal myself. Oh, I got my ultimate. Let me displace the enemy team or shoot them off the map with it. Nothing too crazy, nothing too complex, and pretty straightforward hero to play. A D tier tank. I don't think there are any other D tier tanks, so we're gonna move up to C tier. I'm gonna put Ramacha up in C tier, and I'll put him in between Brig and Lifeweaver and say Ramacha, his kit is also not too crazy to play. You know, you are in your normal form, you're going to poke with Ramacha with his primary fire as much as possible to get your ult. You throw your shield down, you poke behind it, and then like you start taking a little bit of damage, or you want to be aggressive to go into the enemy team, you change it to Nemesis form and you just start punching. You get your ult, you start turning into Nemesis form and start punching and just delete the team. Not too big brain of a hero to play, but a little bit harder to get good with, and that skill level is just slightly higher than these other tanks before him. I would also say, as far as C tier goes, I'm going to put Diva, and I'm going to put her right below Ramacha. It's another hero. It's kind of like just point and click, know what targets to dive, you know, don't waste your abilities too quickly. Like, target the right heroes, jump on them, use your primary fire and your missiles, and you know, use your ultimate as a second life. And not too complex, not too crazy as far as skill level to be good with Diva. Up the list to B tier, I'm gonna put at low B tier is Zarya. You gotta really manage her bubbles to use either on yourself to stay alive and get charged, or on your team members to keep them alive and get charged. So trying to get charged is your primary thing, and knowing when to grab and who to grab is very important. Also, timing that grab at the right time to know, is your team around to do damage, or do you have enough charge to do damage? Like, you have to really pay attention to that and keep that in the back of your mind, and that's what makes Zarya a little bit harder than the others and puts her into like low B tier. Another B tier, but I'm gonna put him at high B tier. At the tip top of the list, borderline A tier, is Rein. To be good with Rein is very hard in the meta today, but that's just simply because he's bad. But the skill level is just there. It's on nearing the top, not too high, but not at the tip top. You got to manage your shields. You got to know when to charge, how to charge, who to charge. You got to bait out cooldowns. You got to get into range somehow and create space for your team with very little range abilities besides your fire strike. So it's really, really managing a lot of different things and trying to create space when you're just not that good of a hero. So that skill level is quite up there. I would put him at the very tip top of B tier, low A tier. Another hero I think is low B tier, right around Zarya's range, is Junker Queen. You know, you got your commanding shout, you've got your jagged blade, and you got your ultimate, and you know, you got your carnage. So that's really, it is like, who are you focusing on? You're using your primary fire, which is FPS based, and then you're looking for a target to throw your jagged blade at, bring them in, use your carnage, and then use your commanding shout to stay alive. Like, don't waste your commanding shout in areas where you don't need to, right? Use it to get that extra HP for your team to keep you alive, and just keep building up your ult. It's not too crazy or complex, but it's also not the easiest thing to play Junker Queen. You gotta time your abilities and target the right heroes to use your abilities on. Moving on up to A tier as far as tanks go, and I'm going to put actually, we're gonna stay in B tier, and I'm gonna put Sig. Sig is B tier, and middle of the pack B tier, and I'll put him right behind Ryan. It's another hero that you gotta manage your cooldowns, manage your shield, know when to use your flux to and stay alive with it, know what targets to rock and not to just waste that ability just to waste it. And then he's just poking your team, but he has more range, so it's a bit easier to get good with him, and that skill level is below Ryan's in my personal opinion. This is more or less like before you use your ult, bait out some cooldowns like Ana Sleep or Kiri cleanse and then ult the enemy team. A tier, I'm going to say right off the bat, Winston is A tier from tanks, and there's going to be 2 more tanks above him, but Winston's A tier because it's, you know, he's you could easily be countered with a Reaper Bastion and just get deleted. Reaper Bastion, Zen Discord Orb, get deleted. You got to know where you're going when you dive in with Winston. You got to know when to use your bubble, how to use your bubble. That bubble placement is so important to stay alive, and just targeting the right heroes and when to do it. Like, that dive is just so important, and it's very less forgiving to dive into the wrong people with Winston as it is with D.Va. Like, Winston can just be easily deleted in a second, whereas D.Va has a bit more sustain and can stay alive and just do more with her kit than Winston. But Winston, I think, is a really strong pick, but that skill level to get good with is just up there in A tier. And S tier, these two, to be good, the skill level for both Doomfist and Ball is extremely hard to get good with them and be good with them. So that skill level is at the tip top. There's not too much to say about them because you already know there's a lot of bad Doom and Ball players in your games. It happens at every elo, but usually top 500 Dooms and Balls, they're like at the tip top as far as skill level goes. Like, they're crazy. They're crazy good at the game, and they're crazy good at that hero when they do play him. Okay, moving on to DPS. So we're gonna go down and think, do we have any F tier DPS? I don't think we have any F tier DPS. I'm gonna move up to D tier and say Soldier 76, Bastion, Torb, and I think that's it. Soldier 76, Bastion, and Torb. You know, Soldier 76 straight up FPS. Get into a position and aim and use your Helix Rocket and use your healing ability, run around to get away and stay alive, and use your ultimate whenever. Like, it's nothing too crazy. Anybody getting into the game who wants to play DPS, I actually recommend folks to play Soldier 76 so they get a feel of the game and how to play it. He's not too hard to have a high, you know, be really good with him and get good. So that skill level is just lower. Bastion's a little bit harder to get good with, but he still is really like aiming, positioning, using your tank form when you need to use it and not wasting it. And then his ultimate kind of sucks, so just use it whenever to maybe go after a squishy like an Ana or a Zen. Nothing too complex or crazy in his kit. And the same really goes for Torb. Torb is like, oh, where am I going to put my turret? And now I'm just going to spam this choke with my primary fire and get my ult, and then Molten Core, Coom all over the place. Nothing too crazy. C tier, I'm going to put Reaper, Hanzo, Junkrat, Ashe into C tier. I think that's about it. Yeah. We actually missed 2 supports, I just realized. So Lucio and Bap, and I was gonna put both of them into A tier. I realized I just missed 2 supports. Oh Lord, I'm a bad streamer content creator. But Bap, once again, aiming, very aim intensive, very heal intensive, knowing how to interchange between the 2 abilities, when to pop your ultimate and use it for either yourself or your team for the most opportunity to do damage, or actually use it to pump out heals, which you can with Bap's ult. And then you know, when to use your lamp is very important, and not to waste your self-heal ability, which also heals allies within a certain range. So you know, positioning too, getting onto high ground, dodging enemy heroes, it's just very hard hero to get a lot out of as far as skill level goes. He provides a lot of utility and damage and heals and supports their team, but same thing goes for Lucio, same kind of concept. Knowing when to interchange between your speed boost, your healing, you know, when to amp it up. Then wall riding is not the hardest thing, but knowing your rollouts, knowing who to boop, when to boop, what targets to focus, and when to just help the team and enable them and engage, and then using your ult is very important. Like, you don't want to get baited into using that ultimate and waste it. It's very strong, very good, and you got to balance between healing and damage and speed boosting. So 3 different things as far as support goes. So back to Hanzo, Junkrat, Reaper, Ashe. Ashe, once again, is more about positioning and aiming and shooting at the enemy team, but she has a little bit more in her kit, like with her ult, when to use Bob, not to waste it in stupid times. You can use it to contest point and hold an OT. Also, her ability to displace the enemy team with her with one of her skills. And then her other ability is that she can throw out her grenade and use that to charge up her ult. So a little bit more complex there than like a Soldier 76 or Bastion to get value out. Same thing kind of with Junk. Like, you got to spam the right areas, and like spamming is different with him because it's a nade and it bounces and stuff. So, you know, yeah, you do die from some stuff like with Hanzo and Junkrat, just spamming areas. Kind of same concept with Hanzo, just spamming areas. But it's kind of hard. They don't have that one-shot capability anymore, that combo that they had before, like with Junk, and that one-shot with Hanzo. So that's what makes them a little bit more difficult to play. It's just knowing where to spam, how to spam, and when to use your abilities, like your ultimates and whatnot. And Reaper is like, you got to know who to flank and when to flank, and not to waste your Wraith, and when to teleport. And you got to get into the face of the enemy team, so that positioning really becomes paramount as far as getting good with Reaper. So that's why that skill level is a little bit higher into C tier. Moving up into actually C tier, I'm going to say too, is probably Mei. Is kind of same concept. No, you know what? B tier for Mei. I'm going to say low B tier because, like, interchange between her primary and secondary fire is not all too important, but her skills are like make her good, and that's what brings up the skill level. It's not hard to use your abilities, it's hard to know when to use them and how to use them to get value out of Mei, and that's what makes her B tier. Another B tier hero I'm going to say, and people may argue with me here, is I'm going to say Widow is B tier. You know, her positioning is very, very important. You go, well, Phil, what makes Widow different than like Ashe or Soldier 76? Well, she doesn't really have too much mobility besides her grapple, and once that's up, you're pretty much dead. So if somebody dives you, so it's very important to get into great positioning. It's even more important to have great positioning on Widow than the others, and what targets to focus, and your aim has to be top notch aiming with Widow to get value off of her. So that's what makes her a lot harder to get. You know, that skill level is a bit higher than the others. And Cass is a kind of similar concept, as he's a one-shot DPS hero, and you know, he's a hit scan. And that's what makes him a bit harder to play. Is like you got that one shot. You don't have a bunch of bullets in your clip like with Bastion or Torb or Soldier 76 or Ashe. Like you have that. Well, Ashe shoots one too, but she's a bit more rangy. Whereas Cassis get a little bit more into your face, more like mid to short range kind of DPS, and it just puts him into harm's way more often than the others. And he's really good in the meta today, but he often struggles in previous metas in previous seasons. So to get good with him, that skill level has to be up there a little bit higher than those other DPS. All right, another B tier DPS, and I would have put Pharah lower if she didn't get a rework, but she got a rework and it made her a little bit harder because her previous kit style was just staying up in the air and spamming heroes as much as possible. And now she can't stay in the air as much, so that's what makes her a little bit harder to play and bumps up that skill level a little bit more. She can't stay as airborne as before, so that's why she's harder. I think one last B tier hero, I'm gonna put her more towards the top, like around Sig and Rein, is Sim. Like she's easy to play but really hard to master, and that's where that skill level to be good with is just really high. It's like how to use your teleport, when and where to place your turrets, when to use your ultimate, and how to place your ultimate. It's just so important. Like her little mistakes on Sim can cost you a game, especially in high elo. You gotta be really good with Sim to get value out of her, and that's why the skill level is super high. Moving up to A tier, and people may argue with me on these, but I'm gonna go with Echo on A tier, and I'm gonna put her at the tip top of A tier as far as like you really need to have extremely good game knowledge of all the heroes and all their abilities and cooldowns to be good with Echo, because when you ult, you're basically cloning that hero, and you may click somebody else and you don't know how to use them, you basically wasted your ult. So you gotta get good game knowledge. Not to say you won't with playing other heroes, but if you want to be really good with Echo, that skill level is high up there because you need to know all these heroes, know their abilities, how to play them. And that's what makes her really difficult in my personal opinion. Another hero that I think is hard to play, who I hate with a passion, is Sombra. To get really good value out of her, you have to be really good with Sombra. You have to know what targets to target. You have to go out after the appropriate ones and dive with your team. When to use your EMP, it's a game-changing ultimate. It's really looking for opportune times, and she's pesky and annoying in the backline. I really do wish they deleted her from the game, but ultimately to be good with her, low A tier in my personal opinion. Skill level is there. I'm gonna say the same for like Venture. Venture is a new hero, so I don't really know all too much about them, but they aren't necessarily the easiest, or not necessarily the easiest hero to play. Their kit is a mix of when to go in and target certain heroes that are squishy, and Venture is just like, I'm still trying to understand them, so I'm gonna put them in low A tier. I just feel like when I play her, I just don't know enough about her. Maybe it'll change in the future, but when I play them, their kit is just not I'm not all too familiar with their kit, but it seems like they're a little bit hard to play and master and get good with. So I'm gonna put their skill level a little bit higher, low A tier for now, and I'll adjust in the future if I make another video. I'm gonna throw these DPS into S tier to get good with. I'm gonna put Genji, Tracer, and Sojourn, and I'll explain that, right? Yeah, Genji isn't necessarily hard meta right now, but we all know, like, this is straightforward. Like, to be really good with Genji, the skill level is through the roof. Like, he's hard to play, hard to master. He's self-explanatory. I don't have to really get into it. Tracer and Sojourn, I probably have to explain a little bit more, but less so for Tracer. Tracer is managing your cooldowns. Don't waste your blinks, don't waste your recall when you don't need to, and targeting the appropriate targets, and also having good aim. So you have to be really quick, really great fast reaction time to get really good with Tracer, and that skill level is bumped up to the top S tier in my personal opinion. Like, that's what makes her strong, but she's also what makes her good. So it's a double-edged sword here. Now, you could be really bad with Tracer, and just because she's meta, just really suck and throw the game because you use your blinks too much, you recall too early, you suck at aiming, stuff like that. Like, you really need to know. You don't know what targets to focus. You're jumping around the tank instead of going for a squishy in the backline. Yeah, That's what makes Tracer's skill level really, really high. And if you're really good with Tracer, just like if you're really good with Genji, like you could truly flat out kind of do well and dominate. Not so much on Genji though, but Tracer for sure. Sojourn's the same kind of thing. It's like you could flat out dominate if you're really good with Sojourn. It requires mastering projectile and hit scan capabilities, whereas her secondary fire is hit scan. Her ultimate is hit scan, right? But her primary fire is projectile. So understanding the two in a way that is, and getting good with both projectile and hit scan is a different kind of play style. Her ability to go into a fight or get out of a fight, her ability to you know, displace the enemy team with her nade that she throws out, like it slows you down and does damage. You got to use it to your advantage, to like move an enemy away or move an enemy into you so that you can kill them. So it's a nice balance for all that, and that's why I think what makes it hard is like you don't want to waste your ultimate, you don't want to target the wrong targets, you want to focus getting your charge up as much as possible, being good at both projectile and hit scan. I think it's just a little bit harder in my opinion. Low S tier as far as I'm concerned. So maybe you don't agree with everything that I think of here and you probably move things around. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. You know, who do you think should be up or down on the list? Do you think some of these are right or wrong? You know, I'm all here for discussion. Open ears. Let's be civil in the comments and have an educated Overwatch discussion with one another. And like I always say, if you haven't already, please like this video, leave a comment in the comment section below, share this with a friend, and most of all, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really does mean a lot to me. And as always, happy gaming.